gonna make some bread. This is the starter that I bulked up last night. You want to do that in about 12 hours. So depends on when you want to start in the morning, 8 or 9 o'clock. You want to bulk up your starter, called pre-ferment it, turn it into a leaven or levain, I've also seen. There's lots of different ways to do it. Basically, you want to add more flour and more water than you usually do. The way I did it this time was to my usual starter, which is 30 grams of starter, 30 water, 30 flour, is I added to that, so that should be 90 grams. To that, I added 100 grams of water and 100 grams of flour. And this time, because I actually have whole wheat flour, I split that, so I have 50 grams of whole wheat and 50 grams of all-purpose. So it's looking pretty happy. It's doubled up in size. And so we're ready to make the bread here. So let me just get set up and then we'll do that part. Okay, so just have my scale and my waters here. So I use bottled water just because you don't want to have a lot of chlorine in the water. That affects the bread. So these are these little ones are like 500 grams. And you could just use, from the Brita or whatever, but these are about 500 grams. And you want them a little bit warmer, so like 85 degrees or something like that. So what I usually do is just take these and throw these in some hot water for a little while and warm them up. It heats up really fast. So we're going to do about 700 grams of water in here. Turn this on. Zero it out. Put about 700 grams of water. We're going to put the water first. So each one of these is about 500. So all of this one, and then some of this one here. We're going to do this. We're going to add the leaven to the water, and if it floats, then we know it's ready. And if not, then we need to add a little bit more water, a little bit more flour, let it sit a little bit longer, and try again. So this is looking pretty good here. It's nice and bubbly and happy, so let's give it a shot. So I'm just gonna put a little bit in. So we're gonna add 200 grams of this, so I zeroed that out again. Have a tablespoon, and it's floating nicely on the top there. Perfect. So now we add 200. That's just full of air, so it's just floating. That's nice. And then whatever's left in here is you keep, and that's your starter now. Just keep that. Feed it like you usually do, and that's good right there. So I still have plenty in there. I'll feed that, and that just continues as your starter. Okay, so now I've got that. I take a little whisk and kind of whisk that up. Okay. And now we're going to add 1,000 grams of flour. So that's quite a bit. If you have whole wheat, there's different recipes for how to include that. I'm just going to do an 80-20 mix, so 80% all-purpose and 20%. So 800 grams of this, 200 grams of the whole wheat, and I'm just going to pour that in and measure it. So, here we go, 800 grams of the all-purpose. It'll seem like a lot. And this is called auto-lysing. This step we're in right now. A little bit too much in there, so I'm going to take some out. And basically what that means is you're hydrating the flour. You're just letting it sit to soak up all the flour. Soak up all the water in there. 200 of this whole wheat flour in here. Again, if you just have all-purpose, that's fine. I've only had all-purpose to now. The only difference will be that whole wheat is thirstier. It'll absorb more water, so you can pull back a little bit on the water, just a little bit, just so the dough isn't so wet. And that's it. That's the whole thing. We will add salt to this later, but we won't. That salt can affect it. It will take a lot of the water away from the flour if you add it right away. So you kind of want to wait till the water gets a chance to, the flour gets a chance to absorb all the water. And then in like an hour or 2 or 3, we'll add that salt with a little bit of extra water to get that into the dough. So now we're just gonna stir this up. I've read to do a 5-finger pull, right? So we kind of push in and we turn it like this. It is a very wet dough, especially right now to start. It'll feel very wet, very sticky. I don't know if you have one of these, like a dough scraper is nice, just like these little guys, or one of these. Just help to get all the stuff off your hands. Just like a rubber spatula, or for mom, a kid cheater. We'll do kind of the same thing, but just kind of to help clean off your hands. But yeah, this is really wet, really sticky. You just want to get it incorporated, because it's just going to sit here for an hour or 2 and soak up that water, and kind of turn into more of a dough. But you kind of want to get rid of all the dry dough right now. You're not really kneading it, though. You don't really need to knead it. It's more just to get the water and the flour mixed up. And that is it. So I'm just kind of getting all that going here. A lot of the flour gets stuck at the bottom, so but that's my hand. Very sticky, very wet. So I'm going to use this guy because I think that's about good right there. And then we're just going to cover this up and let it sit for about an hour. Up to about 3 hours is fine. But kind of in that time frame. So you kind of have to come up with a timeline when you're making this stuff. The recipe that I shared kind of has a timeline, but whatever works for you. You're gonna once you add the salt to this, you're gonna let it sit a little bit longer. But you need to be on a schedule of every half hour. You're gonna basically fold it, which I'll show you in a little bit. But so that's it for now. I'm just gonna. Oh, we want to cover this up with some plastic or something so it doesn't dry out. And then we're just gonna let it sit. Okay. All right, so I'm back. It's been about an hour and a half. And this is what my dough is looking like right now. It's much more, still sticky, but much doughier, rather than just kind of a sticky mess. So what we're gonna do with this now is add some salt and some water. And then we're going to start the bulk fermentation process, which means every 30 minutes we're going to do a stretch and fold. And I'll show you what that looks like in a bit. And we kind of do that in lieu of kneading it. But for now, we're just going to add some salt and some water. So I'll go ahead and do that. We're going to add 22 grams of salt. And you're going to want to use sea salt for this. So I just have some sea salt here. And we're going to add 22 grams of salt to this, but actually we're going to add some water first so that salt has something to dissolve into. So I've got some more water here, and we're just going to add 50 grams of water. Now, this is where you would kind of modify the recipe a little bit if you just have all-purpose flour. So if you just have all-purpose flour, do about 30 or 35 grams. I'm going to do 50 grams of water because I do have some all-purpose flour. I mean whole wheat in there. So about 50 grams for me. Add a little bit too much. That's okay. Just be a little bit stickier. And then 22 grams of sea salt. And just kind of sprinkle it around. It's going to feel like a lot of salt, but here we go. Okay, so I'm just going to start mixing this up. I'm going to use my little spatula thing here to get started. Just my hands stay a little bit cleaner. And then we're going to cut it here. You're just going to get that all well incorporated. And this is just going to kind of auto-lyse some more. It's just going to kind of start soaking up that water some more, but also now kind of getting the salt incorporated there. But you can see this is a much more easy thing to work with than just that sticky mess that it was earlier. Okay, so I'm just gonna cover that up again, let it sit for a half hour, and then we're gonna start our stretch and folds. Okay, so half an hour sitting here, just kind of soaking up that salt, doing a little bit more auto-lyse. And so now we're gonna start our stretch and folds. This is basically, sourdough version of kneading. So we're going to pull from the bottom, just fold it over, turn it a quarter, do it again, do it 4 times, just 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we cover it up and we leave it for another half hour. And we're going to do that for 3 hours. So 6 times of doing this. I won't record every time, but you'll get the idea after this time. And it'll start to just kind of become firmer and more dough-like. So I'm just going to pull from the bottom here. And I probably should usually get my hands a little bit wet so it's not so sticky, but get my hands a little wet and then just kind of pull it over, fold it, turn it, pull from the bottom on top, fold it again, pull from the bottom on top again, and then our last stretch and fold. Cover it up. We'll leave it there. And I say, hey Siri, set a timer for 30 minutes.
Okay, 30 minutes and counting.
Be back in a half hour. Okay, so I'm on the last stretch and fold. This is the 6th stretch and fold, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that. But you can tell it's much more doughy. Gluten has really formed. It's really risen a lot. It's filling this bowl now. It's really airy. You can actually, I can show you. If you, actually I just folded it so you don't really see it as well, but like if you push down, you can see the bubbles kind of pop up, and it's really, it's like a water balloon kind of. It's just filled with air, so lots of air pockets, so we like that. So all we're going to do now is cover this up, and we're going to put it in the fridge for a few hours. Anywhere from like 2 to 6 hours, really. What I usually do is I'm usually done with this early afternoon, like mid-afternoon. It's a little late today. We got a late start today, but and then I just put it in the fridge, cover it up, put it in the fridge, and then before I go to bed, well, about 8 o'clock or so, take it out and we'll form it into its ball and put it in the basket and all that stuff. But really, whenever you're ready to do it, this just lets it kind of slowly proof a little bit more, ferment a little bit more in the fridge, a lot slower. So we don't have to keep folding it. So that's it. I'm just going to cover this up, put it in the fridge, and then next step will be to form it and put it in the baskets. All right, so this has been sitting in the fridge for a couple hours now. And you can see it's like pushing up against the plastic. It is ready to go. So now we're gonna flour the counter here. Then we're gonna pour it out and we're gonna pre-shape it. So we're gonna actually do this twice. We're gonna pre-shape it into 2 different loaves. And then we're just gonna let it sit for about a half an hour, then come back and do its final shaping, put it in the baskets, and then throw it in the fridge overnight. Okay, so first just gonna flour the counter here pretty good. So this is gonna be really big coming out of here. It's a lot of dough, and it's gonna be like a balloon. So you kind of just want to let it fall out naturally. Just kind of pull away from the sides, but then there you go. Okay, so this is really, and yeah, it's kind of like a balloon. All right, big old thing here. So we're gonna cut this into 2. This is pretty big. It makes 2 pretty big loaves. We've done so we cut it into 4, or so we just have smaller loaves. But we kind of like the larger one now at this point. Some people like the smaller ones. So I'm just going to cut it in half. I'm not really going to measure it. Just kind of look at it here, and just kind of cut this in half and separate it. Give myself a little more flour over here. So I can put one of them over here. Okay, and you really want to get it pretty tight, and you're going to make a little ball, and you want to get it pretty tight, actually, and that's something I've kind of learned doing a few of these now, is some techniques for doing that. So I'm going to first fold in the corners, kind of like that, each corner here, so or the sides, whatever, and then I'm gonna flip that over. I'm gonna use my little scraper here, fold that over, and then just try to tuck underneath it a little bit. If you need a little bit of flour on your hands, it works well. Tuck underneath, kind of turning at the same time. Okay, and then kind of start pulling towards yourself, and it'll create some surface tension on that. So just kind of pull, and it's tightening up that ball. And yeah, you just want to create that surface tension. Man, just some big old bubbles on this thing. So just make a nice ball here. Now this is not the final ball. Again, we're going to do this twice. This isn't the one that we're going to put in the fridge. This is kind of just we're pre-shaping it, and then we're just going to let it sit here for a while. So I'm just going to do this again for this one over here. I'm going to get a little wet. Okay, so again, usually it's more circular, but I'm going to kind of take each of the sides, fold it into the middle. There's a big one. Okay. Then use my scraper, kind of go underneath it, turn it over. Need some more flour. Okay. And then just kind of start tucking it underneath. Oh, that's a big old bubble. Those are good. And start tucking it around, turning it, tucking it. And then again, we're gonna kind of, it's really sticking to my hand there. It's because they're wet. Okay, and we're gonna kind of pull and tuck it, and then kind of turn it and pull it. You can see it's making that really nice and tight. There. Okay. Move this guy over here a little bit. Okay. All right. So now I've got my 2 loaves here, and I'm just gonna let those sit for about a half hour. And then we'll come back to it, tighten them up again, put them in the baskets, and leave it overnight. Okay, so these have been sitting for half an hour, and now we're just going to do its final shaping, and then put it in these proofing baskets, and then we'll throw it in the fridge overnight. So I have a couple different shapes of baskets. I'm going to put one in kind of this oval one with the what's this called? The cover on it. And I'll put the other one in here without it. I have some covers for that, but I'm not going to use it for this one, just so I can get that spiraling effect on it. So we're just going to shape actually, let me flour the baskets real quickly. I'm going to use a combination of these 2 flours here. Just kind of want to flour it pretty well. There we go. Do the same over here. Even better on this basket because it doesn't have the liner on it. So flour it really well so it doesn't stick. You take it out tomorrow. Okay. All right. So I'll start with this one. Same kind of thing. A little bit. Put some more flour. A little bit different technique that I've seen, just to make it a little bit tighter. So I'm gonna pull from the top down and then go left to the middle, right, and just kind of stitch up the middle here. Okay. Take it to the bottom. We'll grab the bottom and kind of roll it forward. And then we get a nice little ball. Right? Looks good. And I'm going to kind of pull it again like I did earlier. Okay. And then I'll take my scraper or a bench knife if you got one, and slide it underneath to kind of tighten everything up. Then we're going to put it upside down in the basket, right? So the seam side up. So I'm just going to put it in there. And then we'll cover that up and put it in the fridge. Last one here. They're still a bit wet on the bottom there. Okay, so I'm going to take this, scrape right underneath, turn it over. Again, we're going to flour that a little bit. Okay, and then we're just going to pull the top down and then kind of stitch it up. Okay, get to the bottom, roll it onto itself there, and we got a nice ball. Perfect. That looks pretty good there. Toss it in there. And there you go. I'll go ahead and flour the bottoms of these a little bit. Kind of dust off any big clumps of flour. Nobody wants to bite into some raw flour there. Okay, and so now we're going to cover these. Okay, so I just have these cloths that I put over them. anything really, dish towel or whatever. And then you put it in plastic. So the whole idea is that you're gonna put them in plastic, cover them, and so what you're trying to avoid is the condensation that comes off the dough and gets stuck in the bag, falling back on the bread, on the dough, and getting it wet. So I've got these large jumbo bags. I actually just usually use saran wrap and just seal them up. But I ran out of plastic wrap, so luckily I've got these bags. They're kind of nice. Good size. Alright, so that is all there is to it. We're gonna throw this into the fridge overnight, about 12 hours or so, and then tomorrow we'll take it out and bake them. So good night, see you tomorrow morning. All right, so I'm back here. It's been more than 12 hours, but there's lots of differences in the recipes that I've read. Leaving it in the fridge anywhere from 12 hours to like 36 hours. So a lot of people just say kind of, deepens the flavor a little bit. So they leave it in longer. But I'm impatient, so I like to do it the next morning usually when I get up. So here's my bread here, my dough. You can see the bag's kind of wet. It's just the moisture. And you can see that that's kind of gotten really big inside of there. That was pretty flat in there when I put it in, so this gives it another chance to rise in the fridge. So again, this is the top, so this is upside down right now. So basically I'm gonna flour this parchment right here. And the reason we're using parchment is, first of all, it just kind of protects the Dutch oven, but it also gives a nice handle so we can put it in that very hot Dutch oven. So I guess I should say that too. So the oven's been on for a while. It's on 500 right now. The Dutch oven's in there. It's very, very hot. So you should actually have some better oven mitts or something. So anyway, we're gonna put it in there and then bake it with the Dutch oven closed for a little while, and then take off the lid, bake it a little bit longer, and then we're done. So we'll go ahead and do this. Flour this guy just a little bit. Okay. Get one of these here, and then we're just gonna turn this out on top of here. Stick it a little bit. It's okay. Just get it out of here. Just a tad. I don't want it to lose its volume, so I'm kind of helping it out a little bit. Okay, there we go. You can see it's got that spiral pattern on it. It's pretty nice. So I'm going to flour this just a little bit more. Kind of rub it in. Okay. Now I'm gonna get my lamé here. So now we're gonna score it. So you can get one of these lamés, which is this is a cheapy one, but you get nice wooden ones. You can also use a sharp knife, but these work pretty well. So the whole idea behind scoring is that if you don't score it, cut it, it will kind of explode on its own in different, wherever it decides to do that. So you can kind of ease it out in a place that looks nice and kind of keeps your bread intact, and it just looks pretty. So there's lots of cool designs for them and everything, but I'm gonna just do a kind of an X pattern here, and you do want to just kind of be assertive with it and cut pretty strongly through here. So I'm going to just do my X here. And let's see if we can. So I'm going to open that up just a little bit more. Okay, and then I'm going to go across here. Turn this and go. And you can kind of open up a little bit better. And you can put little designs. You can put little designs in it if you want. I will do a couple of. You know what? I'm just gonna leave it like that. That's it. Nice classic shape. Okay, so now we just need to get this over to the oven. Let's put this like this. Yeah, maybe you can. You know what an oven looks like. So I'm gonna get my nice big gloves here. Okay, so there's my Dutch oven there. So this gives a nice handle for this. I can place it in the Dutch oven here. I usually cut this paper this time to kind of make it a circle. I'll cover that up, put it back in, and we are going to keep that in there for 30 minutes. I'm going to actually drop the temperature down to 450 and then set a 30-minute timer here. And we'll come back in 30 minutes, just take the lid off, and then put it back in for about 20 minutes or so, and then we'll be good. Okay, so my timer just went off, so we're gonna just open this up, take off the lid, kind of see how it's doing, and then we'll just put it back in for another 15-20 minutes probably. So. Alright, so it's looking, let me see that okay. It's looking pretty good after half an hour. I mean, that's nearly done. We just want to get a little bit more color on that at this point. So, take the lid off. And I'll reset the timer for about 15 minutes, and then I'll take a look at it. And it's just kind of preference at that point, just kind of the color, the kind of golden brown that you want on it. So, that's it. We'll check on this again soon. 15 minutes is up. So here we go. It's a little, I don't know, looks good. I was gonna say it's a little, might be a little too brown, but looks pretty good. So I don't know if I can move this around a little bit, but that's looking pretty good. So now we just turn that out. Sometimes the parchment kind of rips. But there she is. Not too shabby. So now the hard part is we have to wait 2 hours to eat this thing. So I made it in the evening. It's the evening now, so that basically when we wake up we can eat this. So that's it. Good luck with your own sourdough.